Welcome to Bring Out Your Badass Self, a movement to break your negative thoughts and habits and instead focus on building each other up and encouraging fearless authenticity.
Each week, we will get vulnerable and share experiences alongside our guests and audience. Come rediscover your inner badass self.
Good morning, badass.
Good morning. How are you?
I am doing well. How are you?
I'm doing good this week.
Awesome.
Yeah. You have anything planned this weekend?
Some bath fixture shopping.
Okay. Yes.
As we're getting closer to, we're working on our bathroom slowly.
Okay.
Yep. So we're getting closer to fixtures. So we have to go make some decisions. Our plumber and our contractor friends have been pushing us. So we're gonna go do that tomorrow morning, and then we're gonna play cards, and then I don't know. Okay. I haven't told Jenna yet, but I'm wondering if we should check out a church that we're interested in checking out on Sunday. So here in our town. So we'll see. It's
nice.
Yeah. What about you?
So tomorrow morning I have my massage and I get my hair done. Now I don't know how it looks in the back, but it has been more than the 6 weeks that I normally do. I want to say it's almost been double that, at least 10, if not 12. And it is just so thick right now. And I'm going to get the teal added back in. But it's just so thick. And I've just felt like it's a little unmanageable, especially in the back. Like the front's fine. Like it can just, keep going. But at the back, I'm like, I need that, shaved. She takes the shaver and shaves it and thins out my hair. I know it's a horrible problem to have too much hair, but I mean, it's a good problem. I'm being sarcastic, but but it's sometimes just is so heavy. So looking forward to that.
Yes. Yeah. So a little self-care.
Yes, absolutely. Gotta have that.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah. Well, we got some people coming in. And so, Nervy Driver, good morning, Mother. And so this weekend, Mom came and watched Riley. She did her aerial silk.
She came to the silk thing? Cool.
Yes, she did. And so did Kim, who will probably jump on. And then I ended up doing it live stream through our YouTube as an unlisted page, but they use it more for the backstage. So the backstage people will sit there and watch it to know where they're at, because they can't see the performance and they can't really hear the performance either. So my live stream helps them to know like where things are at.
Nice.
But Riley was amazing. She didn't get to do as much with the aerial silks this time.
Okay.
Did more of the Lyra, and she did acro type stuff. And so the whole show was just so amazing. Some of the things that the instructors were doing, I was like, holy shit. We had Gustavo, one of our friends, was there, and I just kept hearing him go, oh my God, oh my. The whole time. He was just like, oh.
That's funny.
It was funny. So Riley had 3 of her friends come and watch her. And she loved that. So
that's awesome.
She had 3 different outfits and 2 wigs. So you had to also know her. I was like, oh, that's her. You really had to sort of look close because she didn't look like her. So
right. It was, I tried to watch and it was pretty hard.
It was.
And then music was coming. Music was off. Yeah, like for some of it. So it was really hard.
Yeah. I think the second one was better for whatever reason, that first one that I did, the music wasn't coming in as well.
Yeah. And there also could have been copyright issues because I saw some emails. Yes. So I think there was, so who knows, but but I'm glad that it worked out well and that she enjoyed it as much as she's been working so hard on it. When that comes to kind of fruition, you want it to be such a great experience.
I also love that it's something she does. And so nobody else in our family has done it. So it's like her thing. Mom said, yes, Riley showed off her dancing skills as well. And then Kim just said Riley was amazing.
I love it.
Yeah. And
Jenna is here. She's coming in from Facebook. She said, welcome, badasses. That's right.
Awesome. And then Jen Ross, good morning, badasses. Listening when I can. Super crazy day. Hoping you two have a fantastic weekend. Thanks for bringing the light and love on this Friday. So Jen, just to note, as we start to talk about some things today, I think you'll enjoy it. So continue to listen in and listen for little things that I think that you'll enjoy today.
It'll resonate.
It will. And then Myra, good morning, ladies, coming to you from Tennessee. Hello, Myra.
Tennessee.
And I'm going to see Myra and Carmen in the beginning of June. So I'm flying to California.
1 month.
For Carmen's daughter's graduation. And so going out there, and I'm excited about that. I think Carmen.
That's exciting.
And Kim just said, good morning and happy Friday to my most favorite, beautiful, badass ladies. Thank you, Kim. So, it's funny today. I had a lot of individuals that also said that they're going to have to check out the replay. Like a lot of people were flying today. So I feel like is this a heavy weekend for people to be on vacation or just traveling or things like that?
I don't know. Maya's here. She said, good morning, lovely badasses.
Hey, good morning, Maya.
Good morning, Maya. Good to see you.
Yeah.
Love your beautiful posts, as always.
Yes. So real quick, if this is your first time joining us, please let us know. We know we have some lurkers sometimes in the back, and we love you. We also love just hearing from you, even if you don't say hello. But if you want, just, give a quick hello where you're at, just so we can know that you're here. And then I also do want to go ahead and post a couple of things. Next week, we're going to be having Nate Price join us to continue the conversation of the topic of cause and effect. So this month's law. And so I'm going ahead and posting the LinkedIn post,
nice.
The YouTube post. I noticed it's the abundant life is repeating what I'm saying. Funny enough. Yeah. And so those are some links if you want to go ahead and sign up for those. I know I got this last one out a little late, but I'm so thankful for you guys joining us.
Yes. Thank you for being here. We love this. We love this law, the law of cause and effect. And it's going to be a great month. I think we're pretty decided we're only going to do 4 episodes, not go to 5. So there's 5 Fridays this month.
Yep.
So 5 payrolls for me on my side, an extra payroll for me on my side business. It's the 5 Friday months are always harder.
Yeah.
Extra payroll month.
Exactly. And so just so you guys know, we are going to be taking off the weekend. So that Friday before Memorial Day is what we decided. So I think it's the 23rd, and then we'll be back on the 30th with our perspective panel. So next week will be Nate, as we mentioned, with the links. The next week will be Cate and I talking about how the things we've seen manifest in our lives related to cause and effect. And then we'll skip a week, and then we'll have 2 individuals joining us. We'll talk more about that. That will be joining us at the end of the month.
Yep. Sounds amazing. I'm super excited for it.
Yeah.
I've got an awesome May planned in general. Like Jen and I are having a vacation, just the 2 of us. We're going to do 2 of them this year. This is our first one. And we're super, super psyched about it. We're just going to an adults only resort, which we've never done before. But it's a very solitude type of thing. It's like we're in cabin like up in the woods in northern Wisconsin. So we heard about this place at one of our favorite restaurants here in West Bend. It's called Timmer's. So we heard about this place and we were like, you know what? Let's do it. Let's do that for our May venture out. And then we're taking the family on another road trip. So we're doing an unschooling conference called Life is Good, and it's in Vancouver, Washington. So I'm going to get to see some wholesalers that are up in that neck of the woods. So that's exciting too.
Yeah.
I have to actually formalize that. I have to formally invite myself over to Gina's house.
I think I thought that was just a done deal.
It is. I know, but I've not formalized. I'm not giving them a date. You know, like she's like, I have to just formally say, we're showing up on this day. I hope you're going to be available. Otherwise it'll be awkward.
If not, just, give us the key to the house,
Right. Leave your dog so I can pet your dog. Yeah.
She'll be like, can I leave my kids too?
Yes, exactly.
Oh my God.
Yeah, super excited about it. So it's going to be a busy month.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you're gone.
Yeah, and then I'll be gone after May. And so Eric is joining. He says, "Good badass morning." Good morning, Eric. And then Pam, life is good. Yes.
So she knows that. Do you know that conference, Pam? That's awesome. Or it's a unschooling conference, so it's the kind of homeschooling that we do, and we're super excited about it. We have not been to this particular one, but our friends have. So we're our friends from New Mexico, so we're meeting in the state of Washington.
Nice. All right. Well, let's jump into it. The law of cause and effect. And so maybe, Kate, do you want to talk a little bit about the science behind cause and effect? So related to that, and then we'll jump into the law itself as far as from a philosophy perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, so it's the law of cause and effect. It's one of the 12 universal laws. It's also the sixth one of the Hermetic principles. And I know we talked about that a lot at the beginning of the year. But like these universal laws, the Hermetic principles are, ancient kind of observations that turned into laws, schools of thought that really kind of were the foundation for a lot of our modern day religions and other philosophies, but that had grown over centuries and centuries of time. So the law of cause and effect, the science behind it, is prevalent in all sorts of areas. So like, the first one I always think of is like physics, right? Like causality, like, what goes up must come down. Gravity, is a big principle of that. And causality in general is like woven in towards of all of, the metaphysics and physics. I think quantum physics kind of pokes at it a tiny bit, but it's also very much a part of the quantum school of thought as well. So, so on the like scientific physical side, you've got gravity as your kind of best example. And then when you think about living organisms and human behavior and biological things, there's all sorts of interesting cause and effect, like just genetic predispositions, right? Like just that in and of itself is a big, scientific proof for the law of cause and effect, as well as biological responses. Like, so if you're trying to like think about the law of cause and effect and take something that is seemingly like invisible, right? Like, and we'll talk a little bit about karma, right? But you can like sometimes I imagine like if you're trying to talk to a kid or explain some of these things to them and you're saying like, well, what you put out there is what you get back.
Mm-hmm.
You can roll that back if you want into something that's a little bit more evidential, like in a physical form. And one example that I thought of that I think kids get exposed to fairly young is like the reflex, right? Like when you go to the doctor and they hit your knee and your leg moves, like that's a biological response. That's a cause and effect. That's science that you have very little control over, but it's predictive, right? So that's what causality is about when it comes to like a scientific background, is things being predictive based on the circumstances that are surrounding the cause and what it will affect.
Yeah, whenever I think about, I don't know why, but when I think about cause and effect, I think about those metal balls that people sometimes will have on their desk.
Yeah.
Pull the one out to the side and it'll hit it, and then it'll cause this other ball to move instead of the ones in the middle. And so for me, that when I think of the science behind cause and effect, it's like I do something and it may not impact these two things here, but it impacts
Right.
this other thing over on the other side. And so, and you may not even be exposed to that. So you don't even see sometimes the effect
Right.
of things because you're over on this other side.
Right. And you have no idea. Those things are so cool. Every time I see one of those things, I'm like, how did I ever live without playing with this? Like, how is this not, like, why don't I have this in every room of my house? Because it's like, they're so engaging and fun. And now I know I need to get one.
All right. Christmas. I'm putting it on my list.
Yes.
And so,
give me the hanging balls.
Yeah. And so when we think about this particular principle, it really is stating that every action or every decision that we make really will lead to a corresponding reaction or outcome. So just like the balls going back and forth, I love that, balls going back and forth. If we see an outcome, and sometimes that outcome is hidden to us, but there is an interconnectedness of all of the events. And so it's really talking about the choice that we create has consequences, and that may not manifest immediately. It may happen over time. And, one of the biggest things is that every decision we make and every action we take influences our lives and the lives of others.
Yep. That's huge, and we've all heard of the ripple effect. We've all heard of, karma, all of these principles. But when you really boils down to it, every single thing, every single choice, every single action has an effect. That's why it's a law. Yeah.
And so I do want to say hello. So I've been having some really good conversations, and you'll have to apologize. I have not spoken to him. I've only chatted back and forth. I believe your first name is pronounced Abbas. And so just some really great conversations. And he's been really supportive of a lot of the posts and things that I've been doing. And so I just wanted to say hello. I'm so glad that you have joined us today. Lisa is also here. Good morning, lovely people. Happy Friday. Good morning, Lisa. And then we also have Carmen. Good morning. My two favorite beautiful badasses. My apologies for being tardy. That's okay. We already talked about you, Carmen. So,
Absolutely.
And so you've mentioned the word karma a couple of times. And so this particular principle really goes very well with karma. And it really is also thinking about the energy that we put into the universe. And so the things that we do, whether positive or negative, and sometimes people hate to look at things from a polarity perspective, that the actions are positive or negative, and sometimes it depends on people's perception. Some things that people perceive are positive are really negative for other people. But ultimately the energy that we put out will eventually return to us. So we do need
Absolutely.
to be, so the biggest thing is we need to also be mindful that when other people may perceive things as negative, is that something that also could potentially come back to you too?
Right. Absolutely. I think we see this play out all of the time. And history shows it, like if you think back on things that you have experienced that were negative, there was usually a negative cause behind it, right?
Mm.
You may not have been aware of it at the time, right? But it's there. And so I think, like everything, awareness is so important. Like we have to be aware of our surroundings and of ourselves in order to make those right choices and feel like we're attracting the good karma and we're attracting all of the great things to come back to us.
Yeah. And I think it also goes into a particular, I actually said this to someone recently, that we do reap what we sow. And
Yep.
in situations, if we're trying to approach it as, hey, I'm still going to focus on what it is that I need to do to try to remain positive, or try to look at the overall situation and look at how we can be approach things, whether it's in a positive way or in love or in just still being caring in the situation. And sometimes, when you're going through a lot of trials and tribulations and things like that, it's sometimes hard to remove yourself from that situation to understand, is this something that is also good for you as well? And where do you potentially need to back up? Examples of that is, having gone through a divorce, those types of things, you sometimes don't always see through things. And sometimes in divorces, people can get very revengeful. And the thing to keep in mind is that if you're focused on revenge, what is it that's going to be coming back to you in that? And so if you focus on like, hey, I know this person isn't nice to me, I know this person isn't good to me, I can acknowledge that. I can put up the boundaries of what I can do to try to help protect myself. And I also need to look at what it is that I need to do what's good for me, but also not do things that are necessarily put yourself in a way that any negative that you might do might come back to you as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's hard to know when you're in the thick of it, but all things need to kind of balance out in the end. Oh yeah, 100% say this again. Justice aims at restoring balance and fairness, while revenge focuses on inflicting harm or punishment. Yes.
100%.
Yeah. Justice, the definition of justice is to each his due, right? Mm-hmm. So that is all about balance and fairness and equality, but and equality delivered, not in the tradition, like in a unified way, right? Because what you maybe do is different than what somebody else maybe do. Mm-hmm. But if you're each receiving what you are due, then it is equal, right? That's the important part, I think. The difference, like philosophically.
Yeah.
So revenge, you often think, well, they're due this. Like I am, I am revengeful because they deserve this, and I deserve the pleasure of that, of seeking such revenge, and that is not what they are due. That is about punishment.
Yeah, there is a difference. And I think, yeah, adding one to justice protection.
Yeah.
And I agree that, so reflect on the fact that our efforts and intentions will yield corresponding results. So if we are being revengeful, we will then receive revenge as well, or the avenger, so we
Yeah.
also have to think about the things that we're doing. And there is a difference between protecting yourself and protection, and understanding the fairness and the balance of, sometimes people are not reasonable. And they're going to, continue down the path. So you continue to seek fairness. And eventually this person, hopefully not from you, but the universe will provide the justice that is due the person based on how it is that they're acting.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, a divorce is a great example, right?
Mm-hmm.
Of when people can be like revengeful and spiteful, and then the effect of that cause, is inevitably negative. But there's so many positive examples as well, right?
Yes.
Like, so for example, I mentioned church, but I will tell you that it's super, super, super rare that I think people that that put their intention towards some sort of spiritual practice, whether that's meditation, whether that's church, whether that is I don't know, some type of other type of healing, or even like a yoga or Tai Chi practice. But you can feel this like resistance to doing it. Like, you don't want to take the time. Is it really important? What do I get out of it? And if you push yourself to do it, it's so rare that you regret it afterward, right?
Yeah.
Like you say like, wow, that was a waste of my time, right? That is cause and effect. And if you can, remind yourself that the predictive effect there is that it's going to be positive, it'll motivate you to do some of those positive things that are good for you,
Mm-hmm.
or that you reap benefit from.
Yeah.
And even if you're feeling some resistance, right? Like
mm-hmm.
in the moments before or whatever.
Yeah. And whenever I think about like positives that come back to you, it's when you give love and you give kindness to others, it comes back to you. It may not be immediate. And I can tell you that that's one of the things that I have also witnessed. So I posted not too long ago, I was going through some things, and, but I had already put in into a lot of other people, and, prior to that. And so whenever I needed it, all of a sudden I got it whenever I was needing it. And so it's that type of, give and take. And I just had someone today that ended up reaching out to me, and now that person is going through some things. So I'm now reaching out to that person. So it's just a reminder that our interconnectedness of the human relationships and the positive effects of compassion, and how each of us can really impact each other by continuing to focus on how we can be kind, how we can be loving to each other, despite what it is that may be going on around us.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. I think that old adage, you catch more bees with honey or whatever it is.
Yeah,
but
vinegar.
Than vinegar, if you are, acting in kindness as often as possible, kindness will find its way back to you.
Mm-hmm.
If you act, like a jerk, you're going to be surrounded by jerks, because nice people don't like to be around jerks. Like kind people don't, right? So like, the people that will gravitate toward that are the people that are comfortable in that and are familiar with that.
Yeah. And, there are some things, I don't like to get into politics. I also think it is our duty as fellow humans to talk about things that are also going on in the world. And one of the things that's really been bothering me lately is that we in society sometimes focus on people that have committed crimes. They deserve it. They deserve whatever it is they get. Yeah, that may be true. But are we the person that should be inhumane to them? And so in the things that are going on in society, I don't care what it is that someone's done. I've forgiven the person that has done things to me, and I wish them well. Because that type of energy is going to come back to me. So I want people to reflect upon the things that are happening in society and think, do you want that also happening to you? If you think it's acceptable for it to happen to anyone else, then you're also saying it's acceptable for it to happen to you or to your loved one. And so I want us to continue to think about the fact that everyone is human. Everyone deserves love. And most of the time, those people that are most many times that are going through things, they probably need the most love. And I even say this about the narcissist out there. The narcissists are the people that need love the most, and they're the ones that are seeking it. And people that have committed crimes, and so it's not that we don't hold people accountable. I'm not saying that we shouldn't hold people accountable, but we should do it in a humane way.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I think if you believe in the law of cause and effect, the next reasonable step to take there is to take kind of full responsibility, right? Because you have a belief that my actions cause these effects. Yeah. Now, does that eliminate the possibilities of mistakes? No. Does that eliminate the possibility of just bad choices? No, but even the criminals should take full responsibility for their lives. And is it our responsibility that then to punish severely to make, it doesn't make any sense to me. And then when you expand it to the fact that some criminals or some immigrants or some people are in positions that they are in based solely on the fact that they were born in a specific place, right? Mm-hmm. So, the child of an immigrant, didn't ask to be born there. It just happened, right? My DNA was formed by my parents, but, and I'm here, but how is that different from someone across the world? It's not. I could very well be there. We're all the same. We're all humans, just like you said. So treating each other differently because one of us has made terrible decisions or one of us lives somewhere and shouldn't be somewhere else. There's a place for boundaries. There's a place for protection. There's a place for keeping society safe.
Right.
But it can be done in ways that are humane, like you said, kind, and just, justice, giving them their due, making sure that that the effect of their bad cause, or their that the way that they took their action created some negative causes. So they need to learn from their mistakes to correct that for the future.
Yeah. And this law actually emphasizes taking responsibility for your choices as well. And so, those types of things, yes, people should, take responsibility for their choices. One of the things that was interesting this week, I was talking with a client, And I'm going to make this also more about business as well. So as an example, this particular client, in CRM, a lot of times people will say, well, we need to hold people accountable. And I said, can I, interject for just a second? And I said, one of the things that I found is that we can't hold people accountable. Especially in business, we have to work to have people be self-accountable. And the reason why is that when we, the carrot and the stick approach, when we punish people, are they really learning? How we learn or how we actually help people is inspiring them. It is not through, I have found a lot of times, yes, punishment sometimes, can be a deterrent, those types of things. But if you're really wanting to change minds, if you're really wanting to help people, punishment isn't really the answer. It's about understanding more about that person's situation and helping them to fish versus fishing for them, or doing things. So whenever, and I didn't say all of this stuff, I said, my experience, and I've gone through this, is that I had the same philosophy. I was like, we need to hold people accountable. Well, in business, that doesn't help me, because now I'm constantly having to go, you didn't do this, and how does that help the situation? And so in society, if we work on flipping our mindset and think about the things that we can do to inspire people to be self-accountable, and, people want to be loved. People want to do what's good in life. That's what I think we've gotten away from in society, is that we think we have to punish people.
Yeah.
We really don't. We need to look at it differently and say, how can I help this person?
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
And sometimes people don't want to help themselves, and that's okay too. They're just not there. I get that. I get that as well. And then
we don't have to force them.
We don't have to force them. And maybe it's not a good fit then. It's like, hey, this job isn't going to work for you. This is what we need. You're not able to do it. That's fine. There's the consequence. It's taking the responsibility, but it's also not, going through the path of, I'm going to micromanage you, or I'm going to, continue to punish you. It's like, okay, how can I help inspire you? But maybe I can't inspire you, and that's okay too.
Right. Yep. Yeah. I agree 100%. I don't know, honestly, I don't know, what else to say about it. You said it so well. I think it's the living by the law of cause and effect will create, if we truly live by that law and understand it, it's going to create kind of the society that we want, right? You can't say that about all great principles, but this one you really can, because if everyone truly understands the impact they have on others and on themselves, what can go wrong, right? That's a huge gap, right? There are those of us that are doing our very best to act in a way that accords with the law of cause and effect, that we, know that at all times. But there are moments in our lives when even that we don't, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there are many moments in my life where I wasn't thinking about the impact I would have on others, right? And then, but I was always striving to do that, right? And then learning from that and moving forward, right? So we get in trouble socially and individually when we don't have something guiding us like this, but also when we give up and don't want to grow any further, right? When we just don't want to learn and keep moving. Life is truly about learning. So yeah.
100%. Yeah, because this law is really also about opportunities for growth. So by recognizing the actions that we might take, there might be outcomes that are not quite what we expected. It's then reflecting upon that and saying, okay, well, what did I learn and how can I make better choices in life? And so many times we take away people learning things. And we say, oh, but you need to learn from me, learn from my experiences. But think about yourself, like the way you learned to not do things like don't touch the hot, don't touch the hot, whatever it is. It's not sometimes until someone does that and they're like, oh, I learned, the cause and effect. They're like, oh, don't do that next time. But
Right.
think about the other things in your life that you may have also learned that you don't realize that you're actually impacting your life because you're still doing certain things that are then negatively impacting you because you're still doing these things because that's what you've learned. And an example of this could be in your life, you grew up in a very dysfunctional family. You were the person that had to deal with all of the chaos. And what you learned is that to react a certain way. Maybe, whenever we think about the different types of fears, we learn either to freeze, fight, or fawn. There's different aspects of that. So think about the things that later on in your life, how it is that you deal then with conflict.
Right.
So do you run away? Do you avoid it? Or, so it's that cause and effect, like you learn certain things, but you also have to learn that when you react in a particular way, you're also continuing to cause what comes later as well. So how do you unlearn those things that you did to then cause a better outcome for you?
Yeah. Yeah. Right. And at some point, the things that we learned that shaped us, have to be analyzed and have to be retrained, right? Like especially if they aren't causing those positive consequences, if they are causing harm, if they are not serving you, you need to take responsibility.
Right.
As once you're an adult, you need to take responsibility and learn a better way, and analyze those things. And the work is like never done, right? Because we all have these opportunities to act. We all have these opportunities to cause more things.
Yeah. Keep in mind with the law of cause and effect, one of the things that you may need to reflect upon is that your unconscious is doing some of these things. So you may not even be aware of the behavior. So the example I just gave, that's just something you've learned. Your unconscious is saying, oh, I got to protect myself. I got to protect myself. I got to protect myself. And so that's what it's saying internally. And so the things that you learned, you're unconsciously just doing these things. So first you have to become aware of the impacts. Oh, this is something, this is so we go back to the repeating pattern, which was one of the other universal laws. It's then recognizing that. So with the cause and effect really also goes with patterns in first recognizing those things. And then you might have an automatic response. And so you have to then choose, oh, well, here's the unintended consequences that continue to happen. Well, what do I need to do differently? What is it that I need to work on to avoid having this outcome? And so I want to, emphasize that the universal law of cause and effect, that is a commonly overlooked aspect of cause and effect. We think that when we do something, something happens. Well, no, sometimes we may unconsciously be doing things and not even realizing that we're doing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. Yeah, and that's the biological. It's not biological, but it's connected. It's like very similar to the biological thing, right? Like so our whole humanity, our humanity, like is, there's so much of us that, and we've all heard this, but there's so much of us that is like present that we can be aware of, right? But there's so much happening like kind of behind a veil that we can't quite access at all times, right? And that's so similar to, why when I, hit your knee in a certain spot, your leg moves, right? Because it's a reflex and it's unknown to you that it's actually happening, right? So these things that can happen that might be happening in our subconscious or that are a part of who we are, from maybe even in our ancestors, the traumas that came even before us, those things can all have an impact on exactly, who we are and how we operate.
Yeah. And cause and effect can be, like you were saying, it could be not just hereditary, but it's also from our ancestry, things that, think about our DNA. Our DNA holds a lot more than just genes that make us, what we look like and the disease that we might potentially be have a predisposition for. But it also holds the emotional aspects that I think a lot of people don't realize, that the unlearned lessons along the way that we're continuing to have to break, in what it is that we're doing. And I was just talking with my daughter about this, and I was like, I can't remember what it was, but I was like, that's probably one you're going to have to break. And I can't remember what it was, but I was like, I feel like there's certain things that I'm breaking a part of, my lineage. And I was like, but I don't think I'm going to be able to get to that one. I'm like, I can't remember what it was. I'll try to remember, but I was just like, I'm like, and she was like, oh yeah. She's like, that's one that I'm, I'm going to do.
Aw, I love it. Right. Yeah.
And so whenever you think about also cause and effect, has to do with thoughts and emotions. And we've talked about this before, about how our words and our thoughts matter. And we're ultimately creating or causing and influencing reality. So that negative thinking that we have, or that unresolved emotional aspects that we have, can really manifest itself into stress, into, and I've said this, into disease, into interpersonal conflict, and just our overall well-being. So if you are seeing the negative impacts in aspects of your life, reflect upon that. Many times what I found is it has to do with the emotional aspect of things that we're not dealing with, or decisions that we have made that are manifesting itself in other ways.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And along those same lines, when I think it would be great for us to talk about kind of some tools or some other things that you can do to leverage the law of cause and effect to make your world a better place, right? So like, when we talked about taking full responsibility, that's a huge aspect of the things that we were talking about. But what that also means is that you can't really blame other people, right?
Why not?
Because well, first of all, let's say you could blame someone, or there's a good reason to blame someone. It doesn't, at the end of the day, it doesn't help you. It doesn't get you anywhere when you blame somebody else for something that's going wrong in your life, right? After the fact, right? Like, yeah, that was the cause and effect. Like, that was there. That's a fact. But blaming, I feel like, is more than that, right? Blaming is taking that fact forward into your next actions, and letting go of the responsibility that you should have over recovering from whatever that was that happened, right?
Yeah.
So that's a huge one. I think we've talked about, like, what is a when you think about law or laws of or the law of cause and effect, you think about what the effects are and what the causes are, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, so if a desired effect is also a goal, right? So we've talked about goal setting and that before, right? So
Yes.
using all of the tools that we've talked about. Thank you so much. I just had a coffee delivery. And, when you think about using those things to reach your goals, you can leverage, being specific and having a vision and manifesting and all of the things that we've talked about before.
Yeah.
But those are some of the other ways.
Yeah. In business, people are used to SMART goals. That is one of the things, so being specific, measurable, attainable, I forgot what the R is. And then time bound. What's the R? Relevant.
Relevant.
Yeah.
Okay.
And sometimes the A is achievable. So attainable, achievable. But that, in business, that's an example of thinking about cause and effect. And, the things that we put into things is the result or the things we're going to get. And in a personal life, it's sometimes a little bit different. It's more about visualizing where it is that you need to go, but it's also the self-reflection and self-awareness. So I find, journaling, writing helps me to recognize patterns in things that are going on. And so that's what really more aware that, I didn't even realize, and I've done that a lot here lately. I'm like, oh shit. And that's why, these things are happening. So just self-reflection and journaling, doing we've talked about mindfulness and meditation, but the silence, if you're able to sit in the silence, a lot of times that is really where you get to feel, the things that are going on, within you, in yourself. And then I would say if you're having to, focus on the self-love, which, Cate has the tattoo on, it's doing things that can help remind you to care about yourself and speak positively about yourself. So as you're doing things, what are the things you can do to shift your mind and say, oh, there it is again. So whether it's a tattoo or whether it's, doing things that like every morning doing positive affirmations, think about the things that help you to shift your mind. If you're not getting what it is you want, what are the things that you need to put into yourself or put into your efforts to then cause the outcomes that you're really looking for?
Yeah, absolutely. And those were like some really great kind of reminders and tools to use. And it reminded me of a big one.
CBT,
that
which you use, as well as CBT, that is the cognitive behavior therapy, but you use DBT, right?
Yep. Which includes a lot of the CBT.
Yeah.
Yep. All of this happens more easily when you can embody some patience and you can trust the process. So, like for me, when I was really struggling with my mental health and I didn't have a lot of the skills that I have now, it was hard for me when I would spiral down into a deep depression. Logically, I could look and say, I know that what goes up must come down, and I know these things, and I know these things, but I didn't have trust. I didn't have the ability to trust the process. So I couldn't be patient because there was no faith, right?
Yeah.
So, it's hard to have positive actions unless there's this instant positive outcome, right? Then it's easy to see. But a lot of times you're just spreading kindness and there isn't anything instantly happening sometimes, right? If you're just being kind to someone that is being rude to you, you're still not getting you're not getting an instant gratification, right?
Yes.
But if you trust the process, that in the long run, it's better for you, it's better for the person, it's better for, anyone that surrounds the two of you. Then that's just like one small example, but trusting the process that it's going to lead to those positive results.
Yeah. And I think this is a huge point because people immediately think that, oh, I should see immediate action or, results from my actions.
Right.
And they get frustrated and have a misconception that the actions don't actually have consequences because they're delayed. And so, I think the patience aspect is important.
Yeah.
The effects of actions may take time to manifest. So in our lives, it can be, oh, there's further things I still need to learn, or there's a bigger purpose in what it is that's happening. And that's what I also have to continue to remind myself as well. Whenever I see things, it's like, okay, I see certain things. I'm like, yep, I understand there is a purpose. I also don't necessarily agree with it and, in what it is that's going on and stuff like that. But I also have to remind myself, be patient, because with negative things, positive will, come out of it, because eventually people will see this isn't how, we should be really living, or this isn't really, the best things that we should be doing. So continue to be patient with things, and know that that you also have the ability to do things that will cause good and positivity in your life. So even if all this other shit that's going on, let it happen. Focus on what you can do. And that's why we started this, is that we wanted to create a community of people that we can at least call upon each other and say, hey, I need some help, and to be able to have a community that is focused on that type of thinking about the end result of continuing to add good and caring and love and compassion and those types of things, to be able to try to help people in life.
Yep. Yeah. And when you're spreading that kind of goodness, and reaping that kind of goodness, you're in a better position to be authentic, to be happy, because those causes are going to be positive the majority of the time.
Yeah. One of the other things that I think is important to also understand is intent versus impact. And whenever I say that, I'm talking about, like, sometimes we have good intentions, or people think they have good intentions behind their actions, but the impact can still be negative. And so we also need to understand that the effect of an action may differ from its intended purpose, and be mindful of those things. And some examples of this is that things that we do, we may not understand, like other cultures or contexts or things, that we're not involved in. So sometimes we think we're doing things that, oh, I have the best intention, and, they should want this, why would we, not want this? But in actuality, we're also sometimes keeping people from learning lessons when we do certain things. So we're stopping them from the continued learning, the effect on them in this. And sometimes we don't understand, even in cultures, sometimes the impact that we have, because we're unaware of what it is that impact can be. So I think that that's just also an important thing to think about as well, is that we might intend, our intent is good, but the impact still may not be where we wanted it to land.
Yeah, absolutely. I just was having this conversation with Oscar, our eldest, he's in a, he being separated from the household, he can reflect. And he was talking about how amazing one of his little siblings is, and um, how their life is going to be so cool, and it speaks volumes to like the atmosphere that we've created and the environment that we've created for his little siblings. Um and the truth is that he didn't have that environment. Our intention was always there.
Oh, yeah.
What's important with intention, though, is skill, right?
Right.
Like, we didn't have the skills. We had the intention. We didn't have the skills. And you don't get the skills without having the intention first, right? So, like, it's a natural fucking thing that it happens, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But that is how it works, right? So the intentions are really important, just like we talked about, but so is the impact, and so are the skills that you need to do the things that you intend. And it's all, very much related.
I love that, because what you're saying is that you intended to do things, you didn't have necessarily the skill sets to be able to do it. But what you also are doing is you also are taking the time to gain those skills, so you then can have the intended purpose.
Right.
Unfortunately, with the next group of kids, sorry, oldest son, son that, didn't get to reap the benefits. But he also learned from that as well.
That was his path.
Yeah, exactly. And that was the path that he needed to go through. And I'm going to Jen, she said, it's important to lean on those who are there for you and not try to handle everything alone. Reach for those hands, reach for the love of your tribe.
Absolutely.
Yep.
J-Ro, you've gotten really good at that. And from just knowing you personally, but I think I still sometimes struggle with that a little bit. Sometimes it's about awareness too, right? So if be gentle with yourself and note, and maybe use some of the tools Sarah was talking about. Like, if you're the type of person that doesn't reach out for help and isn't able to lean on others, when in the moments when you might need it, it could be related to like your awareness of what you're even going through. And so maybe journaling or doing some of the other things would really help. But I love that point, J-Ro, that you don't really have to do everything alone in this life. We're learning from ourselves and each other and everything, right? So there are times when you need to get some support.
Yeah, absolutely. We can't always do it alone, right?
Yeah. Nope. We need our tribes at times. So I'm totally curious who else is watching. We have so many viewers and not a lot of comments.
Yeah, I think they're just, observing and listening and stuff like that. And, I'd be curious if people, I was thinking about this earlier. We were so into our conversation, but I also just wanted to understand from people of the things that we've talked about. Have you ever had a situation where you were unaware of the unconscious things that you were doing that then ended up impacting you in some way, and then you became aware of it? I'd be curious if people have that. If people have had situations where they realized that their thoughts were impacting them, maybe negative thoughts or unresolved emotions that were sort of manifesting itself in a particular way. Learning lessons that you've experienced that it required you to go through the cause and effect of someone kept telling you this was going to happen, but it took you actually doing it to then go, oh, now I see what you're getting.
Oh yeah. Right.
I mean, how many times have we dealt with that?
Oh yeah. And each of us are different in terms of how we need to learn those things, right?
Yes.
Like, so my mom would always say, Kate was she had to feel it herself. So I could tell her the stove was hot And I certainly would, but she had to touch it, and she had to learn it, and that's Oscar. It's we all know that in our family, he has to experience it to learn. There are others, who are able to just kind of trust a little more blindly. And I think they just have skills in different areas, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. We've talked about this with Gavin and with Riley, and Gavin will take direction from Jay, left and right, on golf, on baseball, on all kinds of things. He'll absorb it, and he will learn from what it is he's saying. Riley is like, nope, don't even. I want to learn. And she has even told me, she's like, no, I want to learn it myself. And so I just have to back up and go, okay, good luck with this one.
Yeah. And that's super hard. It's super hard, and it's super hard to watch someone go through something that you think you could help prevent, or that you could guide them through, and maybe save them from some suffering, right? But that's not necessarily the intended cause, right?
Yeah.
Growth and consequences are very much a normal part of life, and your intuition and your gut and your subconscious will guide you toward the way that you need to get that lesson, whether you like it or not, right? Yeah. So I had to get those lessons in self-love, in order to be a better parent, right? Because my parenting prior to that was too focused on everyone else and not enough on myself. And then I wasn't able to be the best version that I could be, and actually, think critically and apply skills and do all that stuff, right? So I had to learn it that way. And Oscar had to learn the way that he did, because how else was he going to learn? That's how he likes to learn. He likes to learn through mistakes. Like that's him, right?
Yeah. Yeah. What I'd like to do is maybe wrap up with some final thoughts, and then we'll also talk about the upcoming unfiltered perspective panel that's going to be coming. So if you had to wrap up the law of cause and effect, or something else that you think would be that we haven't talked about that you would want to end things with.
When I think the thing that resonates the most for me today is, or that stands out the most, because we've talked about a lot of these tools and concepts wrapped up under different kind of philosophies before. For me, it's really around trusting the process, and making sure that you are doing good to do good, right? Like, like you always say, Sarah, we treat people with kindness, no matter what. And I think in order to do that effectively and consistently, right, is you have to trust the process and the purpose of this universal law of life. So that would be kind of my last thought.
I love that. For me, I think when I look at cause and effect, I really look at things from not just an individual actions, but I look at things, I've always tried to look at things from a collective behavior. And my actions can impact other individuals, but us as a collective can make a bigger impact. And this is one of the things I've emphasized, not only just in personal, but very much in business as well, that the cumulative effects of many people's actions can really create significant change. And it can really shift the mindset and the norms and the environmental conditions that we deal with. We can make an impact. It takes one person, and we talk about ripple effects, but it's also, the butterfly effect, that the seemingly minor decisions can lead to significant sort of unforeseen outcomes. And it just really talks about, emphasizes the importance of even the smallest action can start that effect with things, and just really understanding that we may not understand the implications of the things that we do, but if we really try to focus on the positive aspects of what it is we're doing, or focus on are we doing things with intention, the best intention, and learning from those things to continue to do better, because none of us are perfect. None of us know all the answers. Are we continuing to grow and continue to look at how we can make things better in our life, in the things that are around us, so we then can see that ripple effect?
Yeah, I love it. I think you did a really great job of summarizing today's episode. And I just saw all these ones. Like
first it said 1, 1, 1, 1, 1.
Yeah, I saw them when they were 4, not 5. But I think you mentioned it a little bit earlier, but it's one of the reasons why we started, BOYBAS, and it's one of the reasons why we want to continue. And anything that you can do to spread more good, to create those ripple effects, that's what's good for society, and I believe why we're here, right now, like in this time and moment, as a collective.
Yeah. So next week we're going to have Nate Price. We're going to continue the conversation. Should be
I'm so excited for it.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited about Nate, not only from a business perspective, but also just a personal perspective. He's just a really amazing person. And so I can't wait for you guys to be able to hear from him.
He's been public about, he's been public about some struggles that he's had. His adult daughter committed suicide, and he's posted about that, and he has redefined his entire, career, and decided to go back to school and do all of these cool things. Like he's a really neat individual. So please come back and get to know him better right along with us, because we're excited about that.
And then Kate and I will be talking the next week. And talking about the things we've seen in our lives on cause and effect. And then we have 2 individuals. We have Lynn Randall. She is a senior director of continuous improvement at Mitsubishi Electric, and Josh Allen, vice president and chief human resources officer at the Governor's State University. So we have some really amazing people that we're going to be interviewing. I love them both. So it should be a great conversation, and that's going to be on the 30th of this month. We're going to be taking, again, as we said at the beginning, we're going to be taking the 23rd off for Memorial Day weekend. And so I just want to tell everyone, have an amazing weekend. And, thank you so much for joining us. And, just continue, if you can, continue to share what it is that we have. Let other people know about us. Have them come join us. Say, you got to come check this out. We want to continue to grow things. So please help us to spread the word.
Yeah, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. Have a badass weekend. Love it. Love you all, and can't wait to be together again next week as we get to know Nate Price a little better.